New York Attorney General Letitia James facing federal charges of alleged mortgage fraud. James, who brought the civil fraud case against Trump, denies the charges and will appear in a Virginia court in 2 weeks. Attorney General Pam Bond and other senior Justice Department officials were caught off guard by the effort to indict New York's Attorney General. Multiple sources told ABC News. ABC's Catherine Falders has more from Washington.
President Trump put in Lindsey Halligan, his former defense attorney, so she would charge Trump's perceived political enemies. So what happened was that she went to the grand jury. She presented evidence. She did this by herself without the help of anybody in her office. Usually you use assistant U.S. attorneys. That didn't happen here, just like it didn't happen in James Comey. So there's still lots more to learn about exactly what she told those grand jurors.
The Nobel Peace Prize awarded today to Venezuela's opposition leader for her work, quote, promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and her push to move the country from dictatorship to democracy. Here's ABC's Tom Sufi Burridge.
Maria Corina Machado continues to campaign for democracy in Venezuela and a peaceful transition of power away from the Maduro regime. I mean, arguably, the Maduro regime might now see her as more of a threat, although she's already in hiding, but it will shine a light on Venezuela. It will isolate internationally the Maduro regime further. That regime has an iron grip on power.
I'm Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
It's time to take a look at this hour's news headlines here on KVNU. I'm J.D. Walker. A North Logan man has been sentenced to jail time and probation for threatening a woman last year, despite the victim's attempts to recant her initial statements. Cody James Anderson was sentenced Monday in Logan's First District Court. He previously pleaded guilty to possession of a dangerous weapon by a restricted person, violating a no-contact order and obstruction of justice. The investigation began in November of 2024 when police received evidence of a history of domestic violence, including text messages from the victim claiming Anderson had thrown her, choked her, and held a loaded pistol to her head. During sentencing, the victim disputed the evidence, but Judge Spencer Walls said Anderson was not the victim in the case, calling him a violent, manipulative person. Anderson, who has a history of domestic violence convictions, was sentenced to 365 days in jail for credit for time served, followed by 36 months of probation. He must also complete domestic violence and anger management treatment. In other news, the planned improvements along Canyon Road face strong residential opposition, with a recent survey showing 60% of respondents do not want the controversial sidewalks added. The Logan City Council received the survey findings Tuesday from Matt R. Vance of Morbium. The road project is tied to a state mandate requiring Logan to build a 10 million gallon water storage tank and pipeline. While city officials plan to integrate trails and landscaping, many residents oppose the changes, one calling the project a disgrace to the Logan community. Among those who are open to improvements, trees 28%, trails 17% were favored over sidewalks 10%. Mayor Holly Daines called the survey results one data point to be considered in the final decision. And finally, Utah ranks as the 5th safest state in the nation, according to Wallet Hub's 2025 Safest States America report. The study compared all 50 states across 52 safety metrics, and including crime, road fatalities, and financial security. Utah scored highly in multiple categories, placing second for the lowest per capita loss from climate disasters, fourth for having the fewest road fatalities per vehicle mile traveled. It also ranked 7th for job security. Wallet Hub analyst Chip Lupo said the Safest State project residents in multiple of different ways, from keeping crime rates low, and maintaining safe roadways to having strong economic and job markets. Vermont was named the safest state overall. Utah's neighboring state, Utah, ranked 18th. Look at your weather this hour, brought to you by Quality First Insurance. Matt Robin can help you. If you're confused with all your insurance coverage, he can help you out. Visit q1ins.com today. Showers possible all day long with a high of 73, and tonight those showers continuing with an overnight low of 53. Look at your extended forecast for the weekend. Showers available, and looks like those highs in the mid-60s for Saturday and Sunday, dropping to around 52, with overnight lows getting down to 32 by Sunday night. That's been a look at this hour's news headlines here on KVNU. I'm J.D. Walker.
As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date. News Talk KVNU, 102 FM, 610 AM. Also on the new KVNU mobile app.
Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning will give away 5 free HVAC units to local families in need for 2025. But here's the truth. This year, there were over 60 nominations, so many more families need real help. That's where you can help. Join us at the Feel the Love fundraising dinner, October 13th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. Enjoy a night of dueling pianos, a silent auction, raffle prizes, and a delicious dinner, knowing that 100% of all funds raised go directly to helping more families receive free HVAC units in 2026. Tickets are just $60 per person or $400 for a table of 8. Get yours now at mountainvalleyhvac.com. Mountain Valley Heating and Air invites you to feel the love at a fundraising dinner October 13th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. A huge thanks to the Riverwoods Conference Center for helping to make this event possible. Let's bring a warm home to more families in need.
Hey, this is Dr. Kevin Duke for Living Tree Medical Group, and we appreciate Cache Valley community for nominating us for the Best of Northern Utah Awards. I have a privilege of working with staff and other providers that just genuinely love people, and we're grateful to be here. We appreciate your continued support as Living Tree continues to grow and help serve the members of our community.
Do you know a champion in our community? Nominate them for the KVNU Above and Beyond Salute. Every Friday morning at 8:30, we'll spotlight a firefighter, law enforcement officer, healthcare worker, or other deserving individual and give them a $40 gift card to Firehouse Subs. Submit your nominations for the Above and Beyond Salute by visiting kvnutalk.com. Help us recognize the champions in our communities. The Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs on News Talk KVNU, the voice of Northern Utah. KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, online at 610kvnu.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Friday, October 10th. I'm Jason Williams. For the People movie show coming up today in hour 2 at 5 o'clock. Andy Morgan of andyatthemovies.com will be joining us. We'll catch up on some films that last week Andy hadn't had a chance to see yet that opened last weekend. And, of course, this weekend, the big opener, Tron Ares, the third installment in the Tron franchise, and hear what Andy has to say about that. A little bit of a spoiler, he was pretty excited on social media after he saw it last night. I caught that during my lunch hour today. So we'll hear from him coming up at 5 o'clock. We'll also look ahead at some of the Halloween-themed movie and entertainment events that are planned at not only theater chains but around Utah. That's coming up in hour 2 of today's show. In hour 1, a couple of things to talk about today, and interestingly enough, almost all of them come from posts on social media from elected officials. I didn't plan that. It's just been quite a day. Governor Cox weighing in on news that permitting process for a gigantic solar project in the Nevada desert has been canceled by the Trump Interior Department. And Governor Cox not happy about this one. Why? Well, it was once completed going to supply 6.2 gigawatts of electricity to Utahns, in addition to what was used in California. That is 3 times the amount of power total generated by Hoover Dam. So that's a pretty big loss. And the governor says that this goes against Utah's own energy policy, which is a little bit of everything. He said he's demanding answers on why this project got canceled. Was it just a political thing, canceling green energy projects, or was there something more legitimate to it? So exactly what the governor had to say in a lengthy tweet today, coming up later on in the show. Starting out, though, also a tweet from Idaho. We're going to talk a little bit to our neighbors in the north. Our show does cover a big chunk of southeastern Idaho. We have listeners in Twin Falls as well. So to all of you out there, hello. We do normally focus on Cache Valley in northern Utah because we are a local radio, but expanding out a little bit today because this was a huge news story, and it is, even for those of us here in Cache Valley, kind of in our backyard. But it's also a chance to do one of my favorite things to do with this show, which is fight back against social media misinformation. Twitter is one of the worst places you can get your news unless you are using it simply as a news aggregator by selectively following journalists and news outlets, interacting on Twitter, exchanging conversations with people on Twitter, and just believing any random thing that a recognizable name might tweet. Not a good way to stay informed. And that's exactly what happened today. It started with, this wasn't why they were talking, but Secretary of Defense, it is not the Secretary of War until Congress changes that. I'm sorry. Those are just the rules. The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, in a conversation about other things today, announced that the Pentagon had agreed to host Qatari F-15 fighter jets for a training program. And we'll get to that in a bit, because I think a lot of people heard this today, not locally necessarily, but around the nation, and thought, okay, what's the deal here? What's up, Qatari? Why are we? There's a reason. And this partnership, this defense agreement, which is an agreement between two countries where, hey, we get to have a huge military base in your country, and in exchange for that, we'll help train your military or even supply some stuff, things like that. We've had one of those with Qatar for a long time now. And the work on making that happen actually dates back to the Bush administration, but it really took off in the Obama administration. And the reason that the United States wants a relationship with Qatar is their geographical location. I mean, they have some natural gas that, wouldn't be bad if we could get access to that. But the main reason is where they were located and the way they could help in winding down the war in Afghanistan. Or during the Obama years, just helping fight the war. In the first Trump administration and the Biden administration, both, people will be surprised to hear this, they had the same goal. And that was winding down Afghanistan. And Qatar was key in that as well in a lot of different ways. They've also been a U.S. ally in negotiations in the recently announced and still very tentative, it sounds like, peace agreement between Israel and the other surrounding countries, kind of pressuring Israel to wind down their war. You shouldn't even call it a war because Palestinians can't really fight back. But that Qatar has played a huge role in that. Now, it's a rocky relationship because Qatar has also been a bit of a wild card. Previous leadership sets in Qatar have not been necessarily opposed to certain terrorist organizations having a foothold or even a headquarters in their country. But in the Obama years, they started pressuring Qatari leaders to end that, to say, look, take a stand against terrorism, against these insurgent groups that are just looking to wreak havoc on the world. And the United States will list you eventually as a non-NATO ally, which is pretty big for Qatar. And then that happened finally during the Towards the end, there was rumor of it towards the end of the first Trump administration. It actually happened in the Biden administration. My point is that the U.S. relationship with Qatar goes back several presidencies, and it's one of those behind-the-scenes things that kind of flies in the face of especially on social media, what people want, which is to think that this is always a fight. And no president ever, came in and didn't undo everything of the previous presidency. Well, this is an example of one of those things that is not like that, because this has been a goal of the United States through multiple presidents going all the way back to Bush, Jr., not Senior. And so there's the background for this. So the announcement today from Hegseth, and the way Idaho comes in here is, first he announced that the Pentagon had made an agreement with Qatar that they would be bringing over, I don't know if this is one time or a large group once in a while or on a regular basis. There were no details provided, and that's the Pentagon for you. But the Pentagon had agreed, Secretary of Defense announced that that the U.S. would be hosting Qatari F-15 fighter jet pilots in an ongoing training program. And then where Idaho comes in is he just kind of casually in this conversation dropped the location. It's going to be built at an existing military facility. They're going to expand or build a new building. I don't know. In Mountain Home, Idaho, outside of Boise. And so nothing controversial about any of this other than occasional presidential advisor and right-wing influencer and personality Laura Loomer lost her mind about this. Said, why are we partnering with terrorists? Why are we bringing terrorist fighter pilots over here to train them, so that they can go back and then be well-trained pilots to fight with us in a future conflict or even attack us like 9/11? It was a horribly uninformed take. But at the same time, there are a lot of these attitudes out there because, as I said, Qatar has not always been so careful on who they let have a headquarters or a footprint in their country. There have been times when they did not necessarily act smartly on who they let hang out in Qatar. And most of it was because it's a poor country, only 2 million people, and anybody that had money was welcome. But again, this has changed. As the U.S. has made promises, Qatar has shifted quite a bit. They've routed out a lot of those terrorist organizations that were known to hide out there. And they've helped the U.S. many times. The withdrawal from Afghanistan, they're one of the countries that have been key in negotiating this potential peace deal with Israel. They have helped push back against Iranian militants. And that is all because the U.S. said, if you do these things, if you become a more reputable, respectable player here, we will list you as a non-NATO U.S. ally, which means you have at least a promise of U.S. protection if anyone attacks you. It's a big carrot to dangle, and we've done that successfully for, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years as foreign policy. So again, I understand why some people hear Qatar and remember news stories from, maybe way back in the 80s and 90s and think, what? We're partnering with this country? But things do change, and sometimes things change because we've instigated the change by dangling carrots, and that's kind of what's happened here. Now, as far as this base being located in Mountain Home, that's actually good because, one, this is a lot of jobs building it in an area that needs jobs. And this is also, again, part of a long-term international foreign policy strategy that dates back through several presidents. This isn't just a Trump thing. This isn't a Biden before him thing. This is Trump, Biden, Trump first term, both Obama terms, and at least one of Bush's terms, where this has been a goal to actually get to where we're at with Qatar. So, and if you might remember, to bring this home even more, Utah has sent delegations to Qatar. It was kind of controversial because the Senate president didn't disclose it, and everybody just found out one day from a picture online that he was in Qatar watching a soccer game, and that confused everybody. But it was basically a diplomatic trip, a trade mission that the Utah Senate president and several others took a few years ago. So that brings us to the reaction today, and I've reached out to his office. We're still working on details because the House schedule is also kind of up in the air. Are they there? Are they going on another break? The House Speaker today announced they're going on another break, immediately hit pushback because there are recently, in special elections, elected members of Congress haven't been sworn in yet. They're in the middle of a government shutdown. How does it look for them to, if they go on another break, this will be a month of vacation for the U.S. House after they just got back from the August break. They came back at the end of the August break, worked till September 19th, and then they haven't been in session since. It doesn't look great. So there's question as to whether, most members, as I understand it, haven't left D.C. because they're waiting to see if the Speaker of the House changes his mind on another 2-week break. So that's kind of where things are at. So it doesn't allow us to schedule for sure right now. But I am working with Congressman Simpson's staff. He represents southeastern Idaho and the part of Idaho where this base would be located. And he sent along a statement. He put part of this on social media earlier today. But to push back against some of the misinformation out there, a couple of obvious things. This isn't partnering with a terrorist country or a terrorist organization. This is partnering with a new U.S. ally that we've kind of turned into an ally, again, after 15 years of pressure. And we do list Qatar now, like Brazil and some other countries, as an official non-NATO U.S. ally, which is kind of being like in a U.S.-only NATO pact. It's a big deal, and it's a big carrot to dangle to get other countries to do what we want. And that's what we've done with Qatar, despite, what a lot of older people are going to remember about the headlines you'd see about Qatar in the 90s. It's a different country today. So Congressman Mike Simpson pushing back on some of this because, again, a big-time social media influencer, right-wing influencer, and occasional advisor to President Trump. They've traveled together. Laura Loomer tweeted out today towards Congressman Mike Simpson in Idaho, "Primary this bleeping moron," was her tweet. And she has a pretty big footprint in the MAGA world. So Congressman Mike Simpson pushing back on some of that, explaining, our relationship with Qatar, how this is long-term international defense planning, basically building a relationship with Qatar. The U.S. has been successful at doing these things over and over and over again since the Cold War. And he said, frankly, it's fantastic news for Mountain Home and Idaho. For the Mountain Home Air Force Base, as Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, announced today, the Pentagon has agreed to host Qatari F-15 fighter jets and pilots in Idaho. The development is beneficial for training, enhances our partnership with America's important allies, in this case Qatar, and strengthens national security. Details as to what will happen. Of course, we're talking about the Pentagon here. They're not going to put out a lot. But what details we do know is that so Qatar has already, as I understand it, bought or agreed to buy some F-15 fighter jets from us, but they need pilots who can actually fly them well. And then in exchange for us training those pilots, they will be indebted to the United States should we need them in that region. And if you know anything about where Qatar sits on the map, you can see that coming up, right? There might be a really, really convenient time to have a large military base in Qatar, which we already do, and to be able to launch certain military initiatives and objectives from that central point in the Middle East. I don't care who you voted for president, whether you absolutely love President Trump, whether you loved President Obama, whether you were lukewarm on President Biden, whether you wanted someone else who was none of these people to be president. No matter where you are, this is smart foreign policy. It's long-term foreign policy planning. And as distasteful as it might seem, and I get that, for us to partner with a country that 20, 30 years ago was basically a hotbed of anti-American terrorism and sentiment, the United States changing that, pressuring Qatar into electing smarter leaders, into moving away from being that country and instead being an ally and an asset in everything from winding down Israel's war on Gaza to getting our American fighters out of Afghanistan safely. Qatar has been a part of all of that because of U.S. influence. And Congressman Mike Simpson from Idaho is really trying to hammer that home. He's seen some of the reaction online. He saw the primary threat from big-time MAGA influencer Laura Loomer, who also has the ear of the president. I don't think he's worried. It's Idaho, and he's popular. But he is taking some time to push back against some of that misinformation out there. Again, he calls this announcement today that Qatari fighter pilots will be trained at a yet-to-be-constructed addition to an existing military facility just outside of Mountain Home, Idaho. He calls this fantastic news. He says not only is this beneficial to America's national security and our long-term foreign policy strategies with allies, but this is also a fantastic development for Idaho. Not only will it create some jobs, a lot, but this is also a chance for Idaho to be a part of America's national security future. That statement again from Congressman Mike Simpson just a couple of hours ago. And again, I've invited him to join us here on the show. We were kind of hoping for today, not going to happen. Still waiting to see what the House schedule is going to be next week for sure. So nobody's left D.C., and he wasn't sure if he did leave D.C. when he'd be traveling. Either way, we're working on it. We're going to see if we can get him on next week to expand on this, because I know a lot of people are paying attention to this. And it's a first for the West that something like this has happened, so I get that too. But it is not what you're going to see it described as online. We'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Hi, it's Congressman Blake Moore. Have you heard the news? My office recently won an award for our Outstanding Constituent Service Program. That's right, the Congressional Management Foundation named Team Moore winners of their Best of Constituent Service Award, meaning Utahns in the 1st District are receiving some of the best help Congress has to offer. Representing Utah priorities in Congress and providing top-notch constituent service is at the heart of everything Team Moore does. We've had great success helping Utahns with expedited passports, visa processing, veterans benefits, immigration petitions, retirement issues, tax returns, and much, much more. We'd love for you to experience our award-winning service yourself. If you need help navigating a federal agency, including the IRS, Social Security, the VA, Immigration Services, or Medicare, please give my office a call at 801-625-0107. That's 801-625-0107. We're also happy to help coordinate U.S. Capitol tours, take your comments, and provide legislative updates anytime. It's our honor to serve you and your family. Thank you. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Everyone has an estate, but do you have an estate plan? This is Jace Allen, Northern Utah's estate planning attorney. At Allen Law Office, wills and trusts are what we do. If you've been putting it off, now is the time to get it done. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your loved ones, protect your legacy, protect your assets. Start today at cashlegal.com or just search Allen Law Office. Wills and trusts are what we do. Allen Law Office.
Okay, so another tweet today. I didn't plan this. I didn't plan to spend the entire first half of the first hour of the show talking about politicians' tweets, but these two were interesting. Again, one from Congressman Mike Simpson, representative of the southeastern portion of Idaho, responding to misinformation and a MAGA influencer triggered freak out over the announcement that Idaho Mountain Home military facility would soon begin training Qatari fighter pilots. Not something you hear every day, I get it, but Qatar is a very different country than it was in the 80s, mainly because of U.S. influence. And it kind of benefits us to be able to have a huge military base there and be able to launch our own jets from Qatar, if you consider where they're located on a map. But you don't have to have much of an imagination to see why the U.S. would want that. But it kind of an example, I guess, of how misinformation spreads on social media and how you have to remember there are some people, maybe you even like these people, or enjoy reading what these people post on social media. But you have to remember the more attention they get, the more money they make. Keep that in mind. No offense to Laura Loomer, but one time she changed herself to one door of a double door entrance at the Twitter headquarters and put out a video. Yeah, anyway, take it with a grain of salt. But as Congressman Mike Simpson, Republican congressman from Idaho, says, nothing to freak out about here. This is actually good foreign policy and important jobs-wise for Idaho to be chosen as the location by the Pentagon. So if you want to read that statement, I've linked to it on our Facebook page. Coming up on the other side of the news, another tweet that caught my eye today. This was actually a tweet from Governor Cox after there was an announcement made today that a solar project in the United States was going to be had been canceled. The permitting process had been entirely canceled, and the reason for that is unclear still. Why this project was canceled, but what isn't unclear is that this is 6.2 gigawatts of power that isn't going to happen now, and Governor Cox was not happy about it today at all. In fact, he said in a tweet that paraphrasing here, he basically said this is extremely short-sighted. He said that the project itself, he said, this is how we lose the AI energy arms race with China. Our country needs... Now, keep in mind, we don't know why this was canceled. The assumption most are making is that this is part of Trump's anti-green energy push, that they're canceling solar and wind projects because the president hates them. I don't know if that's the case, because the cancellation was done by the Interior Department, and maybe there was an environmental review issue. They'd already gone past that, so I doubt that's what it was. But we don't know the details. But the governor in a tweet said, we should be all in on all of this. Nuclear, natural gas, geothermal, solar, wind. There are innovation permitting supply chain issues already slowing these down. We don't need politics slowing them down as well. Intermittent sources, meaning solar and wind, that have been overvalued in the past, sure. But the incredible leaps in battery technology have completely changed the landscape. Solar with batteries can now be close to equal to existent baseload power supplies. And we should keep these projects rolling as fast as we can, not cancel them for political or partisan reasons. Now, again, we don't know for sure that that's what happened, but the governor not happy about this. This is 6.2 gigawatts. To put that in perspective, that's 3 times the amount of electricity we get from Hoover Dam. And it was about to start construction. And then an announcement today that the lease process not only had been paused or anything like that, it literally was switched to canceled outright on the Interior Department's list of projects. It's a pretty big deal. Now, it was a huge, sprawling project in the desert, Nevadan desert. There are concerns there. That's a lot of wildlife habitat. That's a lot of land now covered with plastic and rare metal panels. But again, they'd already completed the environmental review process. That was done 6 months ago. Only other option this could be, the governor acknowledged, is that the developer themselves may have pulled the plug. But the developer so far has not said a word on this. So only 2 ways a project like this can get canceled. The Interior Department, the president, cancels it, or the president's appointees cancel it, or the developer cancels it. We don't know which one it was. Governor Cox not happy about it either way. And really, 6.2 gigawatts of cheaper electricity, that's a pretty big miss. But we'll keep you posted. If you want to see the governor's response in full, I've linked to it on our Facebook page. And we'll be back with more of For the People on the other side of these headlines with KVNU's J.D. Walker.
Time to take a look at this hour's news headlines here on KVNU. I'm J.D. Walker. George Hodson Zinn, the first man arrested in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination, appeared in court on Thursday on felony charges unrelated to the shooting. Zinn, 71, had a second waiver hearing in Provo District Court after being charged with obstruction of justice and 4 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor. Zinn was initially detained on September 10th after allegedly yelling, "I shot him, now shoot me," near the crime scene, which he later claimed was an attempt to distance police. Investigators were granted access to his phone, where FBI agents allegedly found child sex abuse material, leading to the felony charges. He is due back in court for a third waiver hearing on October 29th. Each of the second-degree felonies carries a possible sentence of up to 15 years in prison. In other news, Utah State University hosted its 6th annual campus-wide celebration of World Mental Health Day on Tuesday, highlighting resources available to students, facility, and staff. Alyssa Jensen, an employee with a wellness manager at USU, said the event is crucial because mental health needs attention just like physical health. Everyone needs mental health resources. Even if you're not dealing with poor mental health yourself, you probably know someone is, Jensen said. The event offered various stress relief activities, including yoga, chair massages, and therapy dogs from the Cash Humane Society, also along with distributing self-care kits. A key activity was the Hope Walk, where participants wrote the name of someone struggling with mental health on a green ribbon before placing on a communal poster. Jensen said the goal of the walk was to show people they are not alone, and USU offers year-round resources, including counseling service and employee assistance program. In other news, the Cache Valley Marine Corps reserves Toys for Tots is urgently seeking a suitable location to operate its annual Christmas charity drive. Program coordinator Melanie Sweet said the organization, which has helped nearly 2,400 children in the last year, is currently storing all donations in a paid unit. Without a location, we can't help the children, Sweet said. The group needs at least 700 square feet to secure a space in Cache Valley area. Sweet is hoping for a reasonably priced warehouse, ideally around 1,600 square feet with a loading dock that they can occupy from late October until Christmas. The charity serves children in Cache, Box Elder, Franklin, and Rich counties. Anyone with available space is asked to contact the Cache Valley Marine Corps Reserves Toys for Tots. A look at your weather this hour brought to you by our friends at Mount Logan Laundry. If you're getting those quilts out because things are getting colder out there, they can help you. They've got those 55 and 80-pound washers to make your stay much shorter. Visit them in Logan and Brigham City. Showers possibly throughout the day today. You're looking at a 70% chance with a high near 73. Tonight, that showers continuing with an overnight low of 53. An extended look in your weekend. It's going to be a wet one with the big weather maker coming tomorrow. We're going to see the highs drop from 80 yesterday for Thursday all the way down to 52 on Sunday with an overnight low of 32. So going to be a cold, wet weekend here in Cache Valley. That's a look at this hour's news headlines here on KVNU. I'm J.D. Walker.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Phase 1 of the U.S. peace plan in effect. The initial ceasefire will be followed by the release of hostages as early as Monday. President Trump at the White House moments ago.
They're getting them, and they're also getting the bodies, approximately 28 bodies.
The president says he will travel to the region and address Israeli lawmakers next week. U.S. troops have also arrived in Israel. U.S. officials say they will monitor the ceasefire, but there will be no U.S. troops in Gaza. On day 10 of the government shutdown, the White House budget director announcing workforce reductions have begun. Health and Human Services and the Education Department among the agencies seeing layoffs. President Trump is threatening a 100% hike on Chinese goods starting November 1st. All due to China restricting rare earth metals. In Tennessee, at least 19 are missing after a large blast at a military-grade explosives plant. West of Nashville, officials say there are also multiple fatalities.
It's been a crazy few months with big rainstorms fueling the weeds in your lawn, garden, or empty lot, and the spiders coming inside to beat the heat. You need help. Let Logan Extermination take care of those pesky weeds and unwanted pests with an exterior lawn application and interior treatment for bugs. Call Logan Extermination today before your home becomes enemy territory. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
Weed control starts at $45. Interior spider spray starts at $95.
Bringing Wall Street to Main Street. From your local experts in downtown Logan, this is the Adams Wealth Advisors Market Report.
Hi, this is David Kastner at Adams Wealth Advisors. Well, the market rarely offers anything other than a continuous flow of narratives, and today was no exception. U.S. equities fell sharply, marking the largest single-day decline since April, following renewed tensions between the U.S. and China. The president announced on social media that he saw no reason to meet with his Chinese counterpart and threatened to substantially raise tariffs, reigniting fears of escalating trade war. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 879 points to 45,480, while the Nasdaq fell 3.49% to 24,222. And the S&P 500 declined 2.71% to 6,553. Among sectors, consumer staples was the only one to post modest gains, driven by continued strength in Pepsi, which has shown resilience amid the challenging economic conditions. All other sectors ended the day lower, with technology leading the decline, down more than 4%. In fixed income, The bond market rallied as investors sought safety. The yield on the U.S. 5-year Treasury fell 9 basis points to 3.65%, while the 10-year Treasury yield dropped the same amount to 4.06%. The only major economic release today was the University of Michigan Preliminary Consumer Sentiment Index, and it came in at 55, a slight decline from the prior reading. It's worth noting that the dip occurred from an already depressed base. This marks the second week of the U.S. government shutdown, and concerns about the economic impact is growing as key federal employees remain without pay. Combined with the risk of renewed trade hostilities with the U.S. and China, markets have ample reason for caution amid signs of a potential bubble vulnerability in the technology sector in particular. Looking ahead, next week may bring greater clarity on policy direction and potential developments surrounding the government shutdown. Have a great weekend.
That's your update from Adams Wealth Advisors, guiding your financial future one day at a time. For personalized help planning yours, reach out to us at 435-752-1702. See you soon, Cache Valley. Advisory services offered through Adams Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. For important disclosures and more information, visit adamswealthadvisors.com.
Hey, get prepared for the hunting season. Did you remember to bring your hunting gear, your sleeping bags, and coats into Mount Logan Laundry? With their 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers, they can do any job. And while you're at it, bring in the comforters and blankets and get ready for the colder months ahead. Try Mount Logan Laundry. For a few quarters, you can use their large-capacity washers and dryers and be done in no time. Free Wi-Fi and drop-off service. They're at the corner of 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham on the corner of 1st East and 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town.
Hear that? That's the sound of winter coming, and your overgrown trees might not be ready. One heavy snowstorm can snap branches, damaging trees or worse, your home. Before winter hits, call Hall Tree Care. Sure, you can trim your own trees, but if you do it the wrong way, you can weaken your trees or even kill them by inviting pests or disease. Hall Tree Care's certified arborists know exactly how to trim your trees the right way. Call 760-6587 and get 10% off. That's 760-6587.
Look at that out of state. Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I caught a little clip of an interview that was being shopped around by some elected officials today on social media. It was part of a different discussion they were having. They were talking primarily about the upcoming 2034 Winter Games. It doesn't need to be hammered home, really, that that's going to be a big deal, right? Most of the attention during the 2034 Winter Games is going to be on Salt Lake City and Park City. Obviously, that's where most of the people are going to be. But the state is gearing up, and even though this is a ways off still, and we've still got 9 years, but the way that this is going to affect Utah, cities, even Logan City, is talking about it and talking about what they need to do to prep. Because we saw in the last Winter Games that were here in Utah that this filled, just hotel rooms alone, it filled hotel rooms from St. George to Logan. There were people who were competing that were staying in acquired townhomes and bed and breakfasts in Rich County. Park City and Salt Lake were impassable as far as getting a hotel room. If you were just maybe someone traveling here, didn't know the Olympics were happening, and they were coming here to ski, good luck for that several-week period before and during and after the Olympics. But it's huge money, it's huge revenue, and it's a big deal. And we've got 9 years to talk about it, so I won't spend any more time on it. But it was a part of a conversation that took place Wednesday here in Utah at Rice-Eccles Stadium, where the Utah's 2025 Sports Tourism Summit was held. On hand were tourism representatives, Visitors Bureau representatives from all around the state, but also the Salt Lake elected leadership, legislative leaders were there, members of Utah's Outdoor Recreation Committee were there, a legislatively created body. And the point was just to kind of get everybody in the same room and say, okay, where are we at? Where are things going between now and the 2034 Olympics. And so the summit took place Wednesday, and there was this report from Fox 13 News on the summit. They were talking about the summit itself and mainly focusing again on parts of the summit that discussed the Olympics, or that were related to the Olympics. But this little nugget was thrown out during that report. I'm just going to play it for you. When I heard it, I thought, no, I had to go back and find. So I heard this as it broadcast live, and then I had to go back and find it online so I could watch it again to see if I heard it right. But so again, in a conversation about a broader picture of the Olympics coming in 2034, outdoor athletic or outdoor recreation and the the economic impact of sports in Utah in general, the economic impact of stadiums and venues for sporting events, even if it's not a sport that's a big deal in Utah, they can come here and have their tournaments. So they're talking about all of this, and then in the Fox 13 report, there's just this little nugget.
But national data suggests the strongest growth can be found at your local ballpark.
Between 2023 and 2024, we saw 314 million sports travelers in the U.S. The really interesting part of this is participatory made up 65% of that.
Clay Partain with Sports Salt Lake says participatory sports means youth and amateur sports.
I think it's become one of the people's non-negotiables for their families.
Even though the Rice Eccles or the Delta Center will attract fans by the thousands, people are spending more and staying longer overall for those participatory events.
That you heard that right. So I reached out today. It's Friday. It's hard to get anyone, but I caught someone just before they left the office, I guess, and I was able to have a conversation. This was so I reached out to the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, and because I know they study this kind of thing. It took 4 transfers, but they finally got to someone who could talk about this, a state economist, and I asked them if they could provide me with a breakdown of what exactly that means. So a couple of things to kind of define here in this really, I think, fascinating bit of news that I just learned today that I'm hoping you'll enjoy knowing as well. When we say participatory sports, one, it's hard to say apparently. We're talking, as you heard from the Fox 13 journalists in the report there that they broadcast, we're talking Little League, we're talking amateur leagues. There's in the sports complex area there in North Logan at the ice arena, they have amateur hockey leagues that play 2 or 3 nights a week, and even have their own little tournament that they go down to in Park City once a year. There are amateur soccer teams that have formed a league in the nearby soccer complex there. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking Little League games. We're talking, but when I think of sports tourism, I'm thinking of people who buy an NFL ticket or really spend and get a Super Bowl ticket, or travel somewhere to see their favorite team play, but at the professional level, or maybe even a state favorite or a college favorite. That's the kind of, when someone says sports tourism, I've always thought that. I've never really thought about the fact that these Little League games, these amateur teams and tournaments for hockey, for soccer, for different types of football, less contact football or lower contact football, softball, baseball, you have it all, and it happens throughout the year here in Utah. I've never thought of that as being a big economic driver. So again, I reached out after I saw that report on Fox News saying that is where the most tourism growth has been seen. I reached out to the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, and I said, can you supply me with some numbers? And yes, so overall, sports tourism in Utah is about a $1 billion a year industry, meaning $1 billion of economic activity, money changing hands for some reason or purpose, food, clothing, money, airline tickets, train tickets, hotel rooms, entry into the sporting event or the tournament, all of the things that would come along with that. $1 billion, roughly, just in 2024. But they could break it down even more. In one county, now granted the largest county, largest as far as the most people, but Salt Lake County's economic benefit from, again, we're talking amateur leagues, little league sports, things like that, $200 million is what they could track directly tied to participatory sports. Again, that's a term that's used to refer to these non-professional leagues and non-college club sporting leagues, whether it's baseball, softball, swimming, soccer, hockey. I'm struggling to find other examples. I know they're out there. There are all these amateur leagues and leagues for young people out there, and leagues that are sponsored by local businesses. We have a softball league that is, every team is sponsored by the place they work. Here in Cache Valley, for example, and they play all summer long. And people are spending, in Salt Lake County alone, $200 million in 2024 of tourism. Tourism economic activity directly tied to that. I think that's really cool. Now, this doesn't even factor in high school. So I think what we all miss in this is when someone says tourism, we think people coming from Canada, people coming from the East Coast, people coming, but you forget that tourism is any economic activity that takes place where someone who doesn't live there comes in, spends a lot of cash, and leaves. That's tourism, and we love it, especially here in Cache Valley. That's free money, as Mayor Hallie Danes puts it. They don't really put stress on the roads or the sewer system, except for the time they're here, which is minimal. But they spend a lot of money while they're here, and we get to keep the revenue to buy roads and sewer systems for full-time residents. It's a goal of every city to do as much of this as possible, every county and every state. And people are traveling from in the state. So you have people traveling from Idaho, from Cedar City, and they're coming to Cache Valley, and they're getting hotel rooms, and they're eating at restaurants. And they're doing this because their son or daughter is on a Little League team, and they're playing in their tournament or something like that. But it's huge money. $1 billion a year in Utah overall is the estimate. And the numbers they gave me for Salt Lake County alone, $200 million in economic activity, money changing hands that they could tie directly in 2024 alone to Little League and amateur league, participatory sports tourism. People traveling to watch a game or to see someone they know play. $200 million in 1 year in economic activity directly, and they assume, as they do with most things, and rightfully so, it can usually be kind of eked out in the data, that the indirect benefit is probably 3 times that. That's huge. Very cool stuff. If you want to see the reports that were sent to me that I've kind of done my best to describe here on economic activity tied to amateur sports tourism in Utah, I've linked to it on our Facebook page, and we'll be back right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
Cache Valley Daily and Schreiber Foods are pleased to present this year's Halloween home tour. Follow the interactive map on CacheValleyDaily.com to find the coolest haunts in town. Glowing pumpkins, spooky skeletons, and eerie surprises. If your home is decked out for the season, don't miss your chance to be featured. Submit your home at CacheValleyDaily.com. Schreiber Foods is giving away prize baskets to 3 random homes. Happy Halloween from Cache Valley Daily and Schreiber Foods.
Hey, Chuck, can you walk our listeners through the process of getting a signature loan from Dollar Loan Center and don'tbebroke.com?
You just need a couple things: a state-issued ID, a recent pay stub, proof of residence, the basics. You fill out a simple application in the store or on your phone if you like, and applying is free at the DLC. For a new customer, all this takes around 30 minutes and you're out the door, cash in hand. Look, we even throw in the first week's interest for free. We're also a direct lender, not a lead generator that will just sell your information over and over. Be careful of that and always use a direct licensed lender like the DLC.
DLC lends up to $5,000 in minutes, and you can get your cash in person at one of our 70 locations, on our website, don'tbebroke.com, or even over the phone with one of our helpful, real staff members. You're gonna love Dollar Loan Center.
Licensed by the Utah Department of Financial Institutions, subject to approval, limitations
Hear that? That's the sound of winter coming. And your overgrown trees might not be ready. One heavy snowstorm can snap branches, damaging trees or worse, your home. Before winter hits, call Hall Tree Care. Sure, you can trim your own trees, but if you do it the wrong way, you can weaken your trees or even kill them by inviting pests or disease. Hall Tree Care's certified arborists know exactly how to trim your trees the right way. Call 760-6587 and get 10% off. That's 760-6587.
I forgot to mention this one. I'm glad there's time to do it. And thanks to Greg for reminding me. Talking about the economic impact of amateur sports and tourism related to it. Again, $1 billion industry here in Utah. Salt Lake County alone, $200 million in direct economic activity tied to amateur sports leagues and tourism around those leagues. I forgot to mention this, but cycling. This was some other data that they sent along. This actually came directly from the outdoor recreation team, but the crew at the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity sent this along as well. Cycling has seen a 43% increase in value-added activity every year since 2022 in the state of Utah. And again, thanks to Greg for some of this data, but you've seen, Latoja starts here in Logan. That's thousands of people, and almost all of them are either looking for or have gotten a hotel room and a restaurant and somewhere to crash, after or before. That's huge. And again, that's free money. And these events happen. Latoja is one of the bigger, of course, but these events happen multiple times a year all over the state, and all centered around just the sport of cycling. I've just never thought about it this way. It's a fascinating way to look at it, that, this is huge economic activity. And as you heard from the little clip there from the summit that happened on Wednesday, a 300% increase in economic activity connected directly to tourism centered around amateur sports, around participatory sports, little leagues, amateur leagues, and more. That's huge. We should build more venues. That's it for hour one of today's show. Thanks for tuning in. Stick around. The For the People movie show and Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com is next here on KVNU Logan.